Ladies and gentlemen, it is the Golden God, Mark Danger, and today I bring to you the 10th greatest villain of all time, Alonzo Harris from Training Day, a true, lying, manipulative, gaslighty son of a gun. A true villain. And today I'm going to tell you why he is the definition of good villainy. So I guess I would have to talk about what makes Alonzo Harris a good villain. Well, this movie is so good. His villainy, in my opinion, begins right when we first see him on screen. So Ethan Hawke, who was strangely enough, the straight man of the movie, is that a bad assumption to assume that he's the straight man? Anyway, the straight man, Ethan Hawke's character Jack, walks into a diner. He sits right in front of Denzel Washington's character. He sits right in front of Alonzo. He tries to conduct a conversation, and Alonzo blows him off. He blows him off. Very first thing, very first interaction. Never seen the guy before, and doesn't even want to interact with him. So then, as Jack is persistent in trying to pursue a conversation, he tries to offer him a meal. In my eyes, I see this as, listen, dude, whatever you think is going on here, it's not going on. That's not what this is. Which plays so well throughout the movie. It is astonishing. And as the diner scene goes on, he now realizes that Jack isn't going to go away here. He's not going to budge on it. So he wants to talk to the guy. So what he does is he manipulates him. He gaslights him into telling a story about the job, and where he tries to spin his own narrative by making a joke of it. And we all know that joke. You know what I mean? He talks like, "Oh, you banged that chick," and which leads to a laugh. And the next thing he does after Ethan Hawke's character tells the story, he comes at him like, "You know what? Let me tell you a story." And he once again, another dick move, he leaves him with the bill in the diner. So just to establish some things, never met the guy, already blows him off, gaslights him into telling a story, makes fun of that story, and leaves him with the bill in their very first interaction, already being a dick. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. And you can tell from his mannerisms. Like this photo I'm showing you right here. Does this not scream, I am not who you think I am? And the dialogue throughout the movie, especially in the later parts of the film, really show how Alonzo is lying and manipulative, and it's awesome. It's great. Trust me, it's great. So, they leave the diner, right? Ethan Hawke's character and Alonzo, and they go on patrol. And one of the first few people they run into is these group of college kids. Alonzo gets out of the car, pulls out the gun, and says one of the most quotable lines in cop drama history. He says, I can't do a Denzel impression, so you're gonna have to follow me on this one. He tells them like, "Hey, I'm the police. I run shit here. You just live here." So when the villain says a line like that, or any antagonist really, it really shows their mindset. Like in the eyes of Alonzo, what makes him a good villain is that he thinks his way is just, his way is moral. He has a god complex. This idea that if it isn't done to his liking, then it was never done right. It's my way or the highway. And that's not even the only scene in that movie where he portrays that. In the scene where they run into that old dude at his house, and he constructs this whole plan, this whole setup on Ethan Hawke's character. The way he looks at him throughout the movie is and I pointed out here because it's literally there in the promotional art for the movie. Look at this dude's eyes. Specifically, like the way he stares is very slanted, especially when he looks to his right. Like when he looks at Jack, right? His it's almost like he's looking at him, but not looking at him the way a normal person would look at someone when they're talking to them. Because when you look at this person when they're talking to them, you're trying to convey that, hey, I understand what you're saying. But when he looks at him, he looks at Jack like yeah, I'm gonna, he's concocting this image, this idea in his head about Jack and how he's going to use that into his advantage, which is one of those signs of being manipulative. When they have a disregard for people, or when they do take the time to be genuine to a person, it's usually for their own benefit. And I mean, literally in the movie, it's known that he's trying to set Jack up for this big fall. That way he could get this money to the Russians, which he fails at in the end. But once again, you can see the manipulation in the movie. You can see it on how he treats citizens, those college students, Snoop Dogg's character. He literally shot the guy. He literally paralyzed Snoop Dogg in the movie. Like in the shootout scene with Jack towards the end of the movie, Alonzo was like, "How do you think Snoop Dogg got in that wheelchair?" He literally paralyzed the guy. Throughout that whole day. This one day, by the way, that whole movie, it's not a week. It's a process that's his average day. And as the day goes on, you realize that his methods aren't that high and mighty compared to Jack, who wants to do things on the moral high ground, whereas Alonzo's willing to cut corners in his eyes, protract justice, to enact justice. In Alonzo's eyes, what he's doing is the right way. And if he didn't do, you know what I mean? It's just, classic amazing villainy from Denzel Washington. A cop who through all his years believes that he is judge, jury, and executioner. He believes that he is justice. And his treatment of citizens and Jack, manipulating Jack into taking the fall for him, making him smoke weed, drink on the job, in their very first interaction, blowing him off, And so later in the movie, at this point, I just want to point out like other scenes and the way the movie was filmed that really showed how villainous Alonzo truly was. In one of the scenes, he's talking to Jack and he's like, "Listen, on these streets." Basically to the lines of, I'm paraphrasing here. He says something to the lines of, "In these streets, you either have to be a sheep or wolf." And because Alonzo's mindset is to the point where it's my way or the highway, my way is just, that he thinks that anything not his thing is lesser than. So when he looks at citizens, he believes that they're like, it's almost like royalty in a way. He thinks everybody are peasants. They're below him. He, once again, is judge, jury, and executioner. He's going to enact justice his way, and he will destroy everyone that gets in his way. If you're not with him, you're against him. So that's why when Jack shows those qualities and has those looks of uncomfortability in Alonzo's tactics, that's when he starts planning, like, all right, this guy is against me, so how do I get him out of the way? And that's what, in my opinion, leads to the setup scene where they shoot the guy and they try to frame it on Jack. He saw the antithesis of himself in Jack. And from the very beginning, he put the plans into motion that he was going to get rid of this guy. And that, on top of the manipulation, once again, making him drink on the job, making him smoke weed on the job, forcing him to do these things that he didn't want to, making excuses on why it was okay, He also was very gaslighting because he would poke and prod into the personal life of Jack. Like, he asked him why he wanted to be a narc, basically in his division. And when Jack didn't give a good enough answer, he wanted to push further, kind of break down his psyche to get him as most vulnerable. That way he could break him down and shut him down. Also, another good thing, before I wrap it up, about Alonzo's character was his mannerisms. He was very, especially with the camera work in that movie, was so good. The way they would film, like, behind the car, to the side of the car, showing how the power dynamic between him and Jack, it really made Alonzo feel like this godlike character. I'm the guy. And at the end of the movie, showing how everybody at the end of the movie, everybody in the neighborhood surrounds him. You could see how that power dynamic, that godlike complex has been evaporated. Jack really took that away from him. He wasn't this untouchable. He didn't become he's no longer judge, jury, and executioner. He is in the wrong. He is morally inept. Like, in the beginning, in the beginning half of the movie, it was like when they had Denzel showing Ethan Hawke the ropes, like, this is how it's done. It was, what I'm saying, like, and then towards the end, and how it was all set up to make, Jack look like a fool. He basically set him up and knocked him down, and through it, in connecting that to his mannerisms, like in this picture right here, it's zoomed in, but there, it's a photo of Denzel in the dining room with his arms across the chair, kind of slunched back. Because in that scene, Jack is telling him the story, and you can see the look on his face. You can see slight interest, but you can also see something else. Like, it's almost like he's planning something. His mind is elsewhere. It's not focused on Jack's story. It's focused on something else. Because when he looked at Jack in that car, and the persistence of Jack, he looked at it and was like, "Oh, this guy's a rookie. He hasn't been doing this as long as I have. I can use him for my benefit." And that's what the 10th greatest villain should be, or good villain, period. Their ideologies should be, and I have to stress this, they should be somewhat, not definite, somewhat applicable, supportable, applicable. The best villains tend to have that moral justification, and especially in a movie like this, where we have a police officer that does it rough, but tends to have that justification of his roughness, and the fact that he has another officer that serves as a straight man, that in a way kind of enables his actions, to me, is what makes Alonzo Harris the 10th greatest villain of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been the Golden God, Mark Danger, and I will see